that people are waiting, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, now it is streamed now.
Started yet.
No, it's streamed live. I see it on the top here.
No, not yet. He's having an issue, he said.
Okay, but let me ask you a quick question. Are
Yeah.
you on their page, or where are you? Where are you on Facebook? Are you on Global Bus Foundation page, or where?
I went to the announcement they have made.
Okay, let me go there.
And where is it?
I'm at the announcement. I see the announcement.
So you have the link there. Once it is streamed, you'll click on the link to Facebook global thing, and it will take you there.
There is a link?
Yeah, on the announcement.
Oh, yeah. I see it, Facebook Global Training. Let me click on it.
So, hello, everyone, and I hope you are doing great. So, tonight, we are going to start the English language teaching webinar. And tonight, we have invited two featured guest speakers. They are experts when it comes to doctoral. But before introducing the two guest speakers, I would like to introduce Global Bus Foundation. So Global Bus Foundation is a non-governmental organization that aims at empowering two target populations. Number one, youth, and number two, teachers. So Global Bus Foundation organizes programs based on TEFL, TESOL, coaching, business, project management, and hopefully we have empowered youth and teachers not only in Morocco, but in other places. For example, in China, Spain, Tunisia, Algeria, the UK, France. Global Bus Foundation also organizes 120-hour TEFL course for future teachers. Global Bus Foundation not only offers programs on TEFL, but also organizes seminars and conferences. And next summer, we are going to organize the second Rabat International English Language Teaching Conference. And of course, we are going to invite very special guest speakers who are going to share with you topics related to English language teaching. Great. So tonight, we are glad to invite Dr. Yamina EL Kirat ALLAME and Dr. Jonas Albusi. So before we get started, let me introduce Dr. Yamina EL Kirat ALLAME. So she got her Ph.D. in minority identities, languages, and cultures. She was a member of the UNESCO ad hoc committee of experts for endangered languages. She is an international advisor and consultant in the field of higher education. She was a Fulbright Visiting Scholar at Greenville Tech in 2010 with the program entitled Direct Access to the Muslim World, where she helped in developing a program entitled Middle Eastern Studies. Dr. EL Kirat ALLAME is the coordinator of the Erasmus Inter-Africa Mobility Project in Morocco, a member of the Erasmus Capacity Building Project, Edu-BioMed, on the biosphere reserves, and a member of the Global Youth Academy Project and the research partner of GLoSYS Project. Dr. EL Kirat ALLAME is also the coordinator of the research laboratory, culture, language, education, migration, and society, and the doctoral program studies in language and society at Mohammed V University in Rabat, Morocco. Professor EL Kirat is a member of the Standing Committee of the World Congress of African Linguistics, WOCAL, and the president of the organizing committee of WOCAL 9, which took place in Rabat, Morocco in August 2018. She has taught and carried out research in cultural linguistics, anthropology, sociolinguistics, language engagement, language and culture, cultural representations and attitudes, political discourse analysis, minority cultures, languages and identities, gender issues, and language policy for more than 25 years. Wow, amazing, Dr. EL Kirat. Her interest in all these issues stems from her personal experience and interest in linguistic, cultural, social, educational, and political issues in North Africa in general, and the Moroccan context in particular. She's the coordinator of the UNIMED SU-Network on migration. Thank you, Professor Yamina EL Kirat Al-Allam, for accepting our invitation to share your expertise in topics related to PhD programs.
My pleasure.
Thank you. Our second special guest speaker is Dr. Jonas Albusi. He's the Director of Undergraduate Studies in Near Eastern Languages and Civilization at Yale University. He has previously taught Emory, Georgia Tech, at Akhawain, and Columbia. He holds an MPhil and Ph.D. from Columbia University. He has taught widely in the areas of North African and Middle Eastern studies, with a special focus on literary narratives. His research interests focus on theories of world literature and its inextricable tie to Eurocentrism, problematics of literary translation, cultural history, the image of Arab in the US literary narratives, post-colonial literature, modern Arabic fiction, Maghreb studies, and the life and works of Mohammed Shukri. Besides his academic responsibilities, he is a literary translator and a short story writer. He also writes and translates poetry. Some of his courses include Tracing the Image of the Arab Other, Mohammed Shukri's Narratives, Aesthetics and Politics in Modern Arabic Literature, North African Literature, Literature and Justice, Arab Writers on Trials, the Trilogy of Mustaghanmi, and Literary Icons of North Africa, South, and the Other. His works as a consultant and external examiner to numerous academic institutions. He also consults for NGOs, offering advice that pertains to North African and Middle East or Middle Eastern affairs, and has directed diverse programs in the MENA region. He has also served as a member on many advisory boards, including American Councils for International Education. He is also on many governmental and non-governmental boards, and his advice is often sought by numerous agencies. He is also on many editorial boards for academic journals. Dr. Albusi has received many awards, including Ordre des Femmes Académiques, a national order bestowed by the French Republic on distinguished academics for valuable services to universities, education and science, and the 2024 Family Award, an honor given to outstanding junior faculty members who have demonstrated excellence in teaching at Yale University. Albusi is a recipient of Ordre des Femmes Académiques. Thank you so much, our special guest speakers, for accepting the Global Bus Foundation invitation. And we are sure that our international audience will enjoy and learn from your knowledge, skills about topics related to doctoral programs. And the theme today is about doctoral programs, opportunities, and challenges. Thank you. Professor Yamina EL Kirat Al-Allam, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Hussein, for the invitation. Of course, I've been really very sick recently and I was worn out, but I could not really turn down the invitation when you approached me. You know, I have strict, really instructions to stay away, not to work too much and not to be under pressure and stress, but I just couldn't turn down the invitation. And as I am passionate about research and the topic is about research, I thought that this may be the cure and then I will feel better after I do this presentation. Okay, so I will share my screen if you allow me. Yes. I didn't open my, let me just open my PowerPoint. Sorry, it didn't open it earlier. So share my screen. It's here. Okay, do you see it?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So, okay, so as you can see from the title, actually, first of all, before talking, I would like to thank Professor Jonas Albusi for joining me on this panel or on this presentation. Actually, we have worked on it together, and we want, as a team, as a group, really and we consulted each other and we agreed on how to do it. So the title Doctoral, and you see the / PhD journey, because remember that, as I mentioned it already earlier last summer during the webinars, the doctoral webinars in Morocco, we don't speak about PhD, but we speak about doctoral program, because we are within the LMD system. So doctoral or PhD, because we are addressing an international audience where the PhD is the term used. So key strategies for success. Now, just to tell you, and I would like you to keep this in mind, this is what we have done actually, is relying on research to do this presentation, just to show you how many or how much you learn from undertaking the research or the doctoral research, because you learn skills for life. So we have based our actually our presentation on a survey we have undertaken and shared with the different doctoral students, different levels. And these are the results very quickly. So you see a little bit the universities that where students belong. Those very few, of course, the sample is very limited, unfortunately, and this is a disappointment for me, because it was addressed to researchers, young researchers who do not take part in a research. This is somehow discouraging for me, because to be a researcher, you should encourage research, and whenever there is a research, you should get involved and give the data to the people you are looking for. So this is just to give you an idea. As you can see, the majority of the informants are from Mohammed V University, but we have more or less people from most of the Moroccan universities. Just to So try to find out about the status of the students, full-time students employed, and again, as you can see, the percentage for employed students is the largest, which means that, of course, there are more and more people employed who want to improve their situations and who get involved in doctoral studies. The year of different years of registration, as you can see, we have from first year, and you know that doctoral studies in Morocco normally legally should take 6 years, and that beyond 6 years, it's illegal. Now, because of the COVID conditions, the Moroccan universities have agreed to give an extra or an additional year for students, but I think that taking more than all this time for a doctoral dissertation is somehow a problem, and we will be talking about it, and we will somehow refer to why people spend that much time in the doctoral program, because the start was not, they didn't have a good start at the very beginning. Okay, so here you can see as well that the profile of the doctoral students who took part in our survey. So you have biology, psycholinguistics, phonology, you have different areas of studies, political and international studies, economics, migration studies, cultural studies. So you have different profiles, even though the sample is limited, actually, is not very large, but the representativity of different areas of studies is, I think, really very interesting. Questions now that I want to address before I go into the details of my presentation. I would like the audience to interact, or people who are following, to write in the question answer chat thing, what is it called? their answers. So what challenges do you anticipate? I'm, of course, speaking to first-year students. Do you anticipate to face in your doctoral program, or what challenges did you anticipate to face in your doctoral programs? If you can write this in the chat room, we would really appreciate it, because we can add this to the other what we collected in the survey. Okay, so this was the first question. I would like you to answer the question. The second question, of course, no, sorry, I have my, can't see the screen. The second question is, what challenges are you facing as a doctoral researcher now? And of course, I want you again to write down this and to think about it and write it down. And you will see at the as the presentation progresses that I will be referring maybe to some of the challenges you will be yourself stating there. Okay, so we asked the question, of course, what are some of the challenges you have faced before registration in the doctorate or the PhD? And we asked the informants or the doctoral students to classify these from most important to least important. And you can see that, of course, as the graph shows, you can see that, for instance, to find the right doctoral program is very important, number 5 here. And then, of course, you have how to choose a topic was also very important, in addition to finding the supervisor and getting the references and so on. So here, this graph represents or shows somehow the challenges students face before getting registered in the doctoral program. Now I'm going to, because we left the possibility for people to give additional challenges. So you have here the challenges that some of the informants added, how to match my preferences with those that are likely to help me get chosen, that is in the selection when applying for the doctoral program, how to design a research design or to choose a theoretical framework. So of course, and some that had, of course, other challenges because they choose the topic before getting selected. And then when they went through the selection committee, they were asked to reconsider their topics and so on. And of course, rewriting the proposal was also challenging. Now here, what is here is rather the challenges faced after registration. And here you can see that actually there are serious challenges. As you can see here, getting motivated to start work on research. So this is actually number 1, the blue one here. But of course, find the motivating environment and context for undertaking research was also very, very important. And you have also get the supervisor's feedback on work submitted. So you can see all the challenges here. And of course, as I will be reporting this more clearly, set the balance between my work and research, manage my time to start working on the research, set priorities in my life and spare time for research. So you have different challenges, and we have some additional challenges as well added by the informants, namely how to match my preferences with those that are likely, again, for things, obstacles in field work, money, funding, that's money, get enough money to pay for the annual fees, because in some Moroccan universities, and especially I think at Mohammed V University, employed students have to pay for their registration in the doctoral program. And of course, some said that all the above challenges we mentioned, these people were facing all these challenges. And the other thing is lack of a constructive support from the supervisor and the institution. Now here again, we had we asked another question about if you had the chance to change something about your doctoral situation, what would it be? That is asking people to reflect about the situation or the experience they are having and to see what they would like to see changed. So see here, number one is change my way of managing time, and you will see that this time management will appear again and again, and most of the students actually have problems with time management. And then you have, of course, this is the highest score, but you have the other score is change, apply for a doctoral program abroad, which is somehow surprising. And I don't understand what's the difference, but we will maybe get deeper into this. Then change the research topic, you can see, change the university, not very important. And what is actually what I noticed that is somehow not very important, but to some extent is change the supervisor as well. So you see a little bit a number of challenges here that or situations that students are facing that they would like to see different. Okay. I have, on the basis of the question we asked about overall, how would you qualify your doctoral experience? And we asked the respondents to use only 3 key terms that would sum up their situation. And you see that what the result is challenging. Most of the students think that the doctoral journey is challenging. It is stressful, of course, depending on the students and their experiences, but some of them think it is rewarding, it is promising, it is enriching, it is interesting, it is eye-opening, it is, of course, demanding, it's good, and it's enjoyable. So it depends on things, and I think that actually the experience of everyone depends on the context he or she is in, and that this we will try to do with you here today, and we will see what your experience is and how you would qualify it. Okay, now what are the opportunities? We also looked at the opportunities a doctorate offers to a person after the person gets his degree. So developing or going through the experience, so it's an opportunity to develop professionally, acquire more knowledge. So you see on top of all is acquire more knowledge. And then you have develop professionally, then you have develop personally as well, improve one's position, getting a better status, because people look at it as a promotion or as a way to get a higher rank. And then, of course, you have, these are the most important things. These have been added, being a professor, a researcher, and of course, other people have added satisfaction and so on. Now, what opportunities are there for a doctoral student to take advantage of at the national level? And here I focused on the situation in Morocco and on Moroccans, but also with respect to international students about their situation. And you can see what was reported here: training programs for doctoral students. And I am sure that the students had in mind the series of webinar we offered last summer, because most of the students who participated actually in this survey also attended our webinars last summer. Okay, then support and help provided by the institution, you see it's really very low. Financial support is also very low. Training program, and you have help and guidance. So you see a little bit you look at all the opportunities here, and you see that all what is offered to doctoral students at the national level. I don't want to, because we have another part that is very interesting, so I'm going over quickly over the results very quickly. Among the opportunities mentioned above, what are the ones you have benefited from? So training program again comes on top, and of course support and help provided by the institution. You have financial support is very, very low, and you have training programs. So you see a little bit, especially the students refer to because they remember the training program that were offered last summer. Which of the challenges have you faced? Which of the following challenges you have faced? And here I would go actually to the following graph because it gives the thing in a ranking. So you see challenges faced, as you can see, so that you see it. Time management, as I mentioned earlier, most of the students actually face problems with the time management. Students face problems, also challenges with stress. Sorry, problems with, of course, or challenges putting a balance between family responsibilities and research. I guess that the majority I actually we overlooked to include the gender variable there. So I guess that family responsibilities, from my experience with my doctoral students, are most of the time the challenges that female researchers face. It's very rare where male researchers actually face such challenges. And you have also challenges with meeting other doctoral requirements, such as publishing articles, satisfying the 200 hours that the Moroccan doctoral program imposes on the students to validate before the defense. Establishing a balance between work and research. This is also a serious one. Lack of motivation, lack of institutional support, challenges with field work, concerns about the future. All these challenges are, of course, normal, but of course the time management and stress are the most serious ones, and we will get to this into the strategies for a successful doctorate. Okay, now challenges being ranked. So time management, as you can see, I have already referred to this just as a reminder. So you see, these are really the most important challenges faced by the doctoral students. Now, I would like all our followers to go to the menti.com and use the code 156669 and of course enter. I want to stop sharing, Hussein.
Yes, you can.
As to go to, yeah, but I can't. No, I can't. I can't see the stop sharing. Oh yes. No.
Yeah, I mean.
What is it?
The green one.
A green one, yes. Yeah. And I want to go to another, yes. Okay, so here, I would like you to go to the www.menti.com and use the code 1566694 and answer the question or type in 3 terms to describe your experience in doctoral research. Can you do it? I have used this just as an example for you, and I would love you to do it also, so as to see what will appear from, of course, how you feel about your experience in doctoral research.
Great.
Yeah? Yes?
So yeah, they are going to use that, platform, okay, to share.
Yeah, please, can you share it on Facebook? Can you share the information I shared earlier on Facebook? I put it in the chat.
Yeah, they can.
Thing. Yeah. Wow, stressful. Good. Yes. More, please, come on. Each person can enter up to 3 words. So normally there are 17 people following. We should have at least 300. If everyone enters or enters just one word, it should be 100 words. Yes?
Great.
Go ahead. Please do. Yeah.
So Hasna said done. I guess she.
Yeah. Have you
answered or
shared
she
the?
wants
Have
to
you
answer.
shared the? Yeah. Wow.
Nihal Buabida said done. Okay. Ayub
Come
Sahi,
on.
done. Yes. Tariq said, please the code again.
Can you
please
share
the code
it? Can you share it, please? Because it's in the chat box.
Yes. So www. Menti.
Menti, www.menti.com. And then you use the code 156669 4.
So the code is 15. Yes.
69 4. Yeah, somebody has already shared
Wonderful.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, no, great.
Okay.
And by the way, there is a great interaction here on Facebook, and there are a lot of answers concerning the challenges. You asked them before. So we are still waiting for the answers, but let me report some of the challenges.
Yes,
for example,
please.
Ali said one of the problems that PhD students face is the methodology, which is challenging. Naima said limited access to the previous Moroccan dissertations. Another one said it's to find the right topic. Hasna said time management is very challenging, especially for employed students, to strike a balance between family and studies. And there is a very interesting question, by the way, Professor Yamina EL Kirat ALLAME from Germany. So Malke Yuzim, if I pronounce the name, she said that is the master degree obligatory before PhD in Morocco? Yes. In Germany, the students can apply to PhD programs directly. So I'm just asking.
No, I don't think
it's a very interesting question between.
Yeah, I don't think it is the case in Germany as well, because actually all the European countries have adopted the LMD system. So I think that licence or BA and then master degree and then doctoral program is the right order, or we cannot actually from a BA get into a doctorate. I think this is impossible. And I don't know whether this person is really registered in the doctoral program without a master degree. Maybe it has.
I guess, sorry for interrupting you. I guess she meant not. There is the master or there are some programs that respect the number.
Of years, a number
hours.
of years. Yeah,
of years and hours.
Years, yeah. Okay. Now in Morocco, it's impossible to get into a doctoral program without having gone through the master program, or if you have a diploma from the old system, because we used to have a DESA or DSS, that is a diplôme d'études supérieures or diplôme d'études approfondies. That's really the terms. These are the equivalent of the master degree, the current master degree. You can get registered, but without this, you cannot register in a doctorate in Morocco.
All
okay.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Other questions? Jonas, what is the situation in the US? Can people register in a PhD
maybe
without?
maybe I can speak to that, but let me just say, first of all, thank you so much, Mr. Casares, for inviting us. And also I'd like to thank the Global Bus Foundation for the amazing, excellent work. So thanks a lot for the work that you do. And I also want to thank my colleague, Professor Kirat, for inviting me to be part of this venture and also have a conversation. But I want to speak to the question probably from Germany. So in the United States, you can actually go from a bachelor degree straight to a PhD. It is possible. For instance, you could do that at Yale, you could do that at Harvard, but here's the reason behind that. You could also come if you have like a master's, like either, you know, Master of Science or you have like a master's, or you have also an MPhil. But the reason behind that, because once you get into a PhD program, you have to take at least 2 to 3 years studying. So the master's degree is built in there. You get actually master's through the route. So when you get admitted as a PhD student, but you actually take classes and seminars and you write paper, then you have to do your comprehensive exam, you have to do your qualitative exam before you become a PhD candidate. And I think what's really different between the United States and other places, like for instance in Europe or also Morocco, is the minute that you get registered in Morocco, you're a PhD candidate. In the United States, you're not. You're a PhD student. You don't get the candidacy till technically like after 2 to 3 years. That's why sometimes in the United States, the PhD can take up to 8 years. You hear somebody say, I'm in my 7th year, because they have spent 3 years taking actually classes that you would do in the master and taking exams and all that. So that's where maybe the period in the United States is a little bit longer. I mean, we can also think comparing it, for instance, with England, where you would need a master's, for instance, if you do a PhD in, let's say in Oxford or Cambridge or Essex or other places, because then you have the clock of 3 to 4 years to finish the program, just to speak to that. But you do have that. A lot of universities, like for instance, like just an example, like, I mean, a lot of universities, like usually you get an MPhil or a master's in your way, like as you clock in your PhD candidacy. So just up to that specific question.
Yeah, as you can see from what we got, the word it out, stress or challenging is more or less the same thing that appeared, if you remember the previous thing, word it in, I shared with you on my PowerPoint. It was challenges was the challenging was the most apparent word. You have stressful as well, but you also have enriching, which is actually, it's a positive experience. You have demanding, of course. You have promising, so you can see a little bit the results of this, and more or less it joins what I came out with from the survey. Okay, so now I'm going to go back to, of course, I think I'm going to go back to my presentation, to my PowerPoint. Yeah, no, this is not it. Okay, so we are back to the presentation and we will move to yeah. So here, just for fun a little bit to make it, because I know that doctoral students are under a lot of stress. So just for fun, so keep studying. You can sleep, cry after you get your degree. And this is actually what most people think, that they should really struggle, kill themselves at work until they get their degree. And Jonas will be talking about some strategies for success in a doctoral program, and he will be referring to this actually. Okay, another, why isn't it moving? Okay, PhD students temperature check. Okay, you see the people. Okay, so anxiety, you drink a lot of coffee so that you stay up, you don't sleep, and you so that you have the energy to work. So again, and of course here, the only physical activity, as you can see, most of the students do not think of exercising or having extra activities, and again, Jonas will be referring to this. So I have gone through this myself, but I did used to have some exercise, because it's really very helpful to get out or get rid of the stress you are under when you are working on a doctorate. Okay, so you look for references and you find very interesting articles relevant to the point, but of course they are not for free. So this is one of the main challenges actually our doctoral students in Morocco face, because they don't have access to online libraries or journals. And it's unfortunate because they face a lot of challenges. So I put it there just as for fun, because this is a serious challenge. Okay, the other thing is, of course, review publication, okay, in scientific journals, and I put it there on purpose. Can you review manuscripts fairly and quick? So you see how much time when you submit an article, how much time it takes. It takes too much time to submit an article to a journal and to get it published, and sometimes you have to wait, especially for high impact journals. It takes sometimes years, okay? Elsevier, for instance, takes more than 2 years to have an article published. The other thing, the serious challenge that students face sometimes with respect to some topics is that there is a lot, or there are a lot of references, and they get lost into the references and they don't know. So you see the image, I don't know what you understand from it. Resources needed for my project. It's an ocean. So you see, it's really very wide, and you have to learn how to select, how to be selective. And this is a serious challenge as well. At the third year, so normally you are, from my experience in managing the doctoral program and the Department of English, but also the doctoral center at the Faculty of Letters and Human Sciences, normally students are very enthusiastic the first year, but then they disappear. And of course, at the third year, so you see the image is really very representative, and it's really the passion. So is buried. So it's the passion and the motivations are buried, and the students get away from their topic. And this is why we find students reaching the 6th year and even beyond the 6th year, and without having completed their dissertations. And now this is represents, of course, after you finish your dissertation, because if you have been, it's like being in a cave, not, of course, having any contact with the world and then you come out and you look for your friends and your family, and where are they? Nobody is there, because you have kept yourself away from everybody, not having any social life or any contact, thinking that this is how, or this is the best way to complete a dissertation. Okay, so I think that with this, I will give the floor to Jonas to carry on with the strategies. Do you want me to keep sharing for you, or what?
Go ahead. You could just go put the slides on. So
okay, so you have, of course, I will put the slide on, and of course, Jonas will get into the strategies for success.
Yeah. So first of all, I want to say, like, these are.
Yeah, sorry, Jonas. Just one thing before you continue. Okay. There is a great news. I mean, today's or tonight's webinar, you have broken the record concerning the attendees. A lot of people are attending up to now, and we have, I mean, some countries from Pakistan, Italy, Germany, Algeria, the US, the Philippines, the UK, Romania, Saudi Arabia, Argentina, and Colombia. So we have started the webinars, I mean, more than 2 months, but now we have broken the record, which means that the topic today, it's very interesting, and the guest speakers have got a lot of things to share. Thank you. Continue.
Thank you so much for that, and I also want to thank people for actually tuning in and really, I mean, I'm very much looking forward to the Q&A and the questions that they have. One thing I want to say just as a start, I mean, that you just look at certain visuals, and if that tells you anything, and I love them, it really captures sort of the journey and the entire experience that one usually go through. And I think what we have here, we're going to look at certain strategies, like how do you combat all these challenges? It's not really easy. It's not really easy. It's easier said than done, right? But we are going to just like sort of thinking about what way should one deal with this, arduous journey that some people take them shorter time, some people take them longer time. People from like this side of the world where people would be in their 8th year of the journey, like 8 years to actually finish their, PhD, defend it and be done. So a few things that like we're thinking about, that if you look at the data that Professor Kirat mentioned earlier, it does really captures a lot of issues. And what we're trying to do is like, what are some of the challenges that we have that you've seen in the data? And then we go straight to, here are some of strategies to deal with. And also I would welcome a lot of questions that you have at the end so we can have little conversations about certain topics you have. So one of the things people have talked always about, and I'll say a little bit about it, is like you have really to choose the right university where you want to study. And this is really important. Whatever you want to study, you want to make sure that one is the area of study. What do you want to really study to start with? What kind of discipline? Are you a person going to go in cultural studies? Are you a person going to go into like biology? Are you a person going to go anthropology, sociology, comparative literature? So you really have to know exactly what kind of place you want to go, what kind of university. And I say this for people that are like thinking, remember here, we're thinking of people who are just thinking about applying, because some people have already doing their PhD right now. And one of the things that a lot of people do is choosing the right universities. You go and you look for that specific department, but also you look at faculties, like what kind of their expertise, what kind of topics they work on. Because what often happens to a lot of people, they apply, they have a very strong profile, and they end up being rejected from a university. Not that they're not smart or brilliant, but there's not really anybody who's going to supervise that topic. Meaning that the student didn't really spend as much time to look at what expertise exists in the department to apply and whom to work with. So that's one of the things at the early stage for people to look at. Once you do that, I say to a lot of people, it's not at all intimidating. You can even drop a line to that specific faculty member and say, hey, I'm really planning to apply. Here's what I want to work on. And I'll give you like the difference between, like, for instance, UK and United States for just a minute. So if you apply for a PhD in the United States, you don't have to have a supervisor. In your personal statement, you would mention who you might be working with. The PhD in England, you have to have a supervisor that accept your topic you want to work on. And then you can apply, because if your application is not endorsed by any of the faculty that would work with you, it will not work. So just to give you like sort of the differences. When you have that, then you really know what kind of like university you want to apply for, and you have to be excited about it. You have to be passionate about it. It's a place where, I mean, right now, like it's online, right? In a lot of places, but it's a place, it's going to be your sort of like second home. You're going to spend a lot of time walking those hallways, being with people. So it would be something you're excited about. Second thing is like, you really have to be thinking about this research proposal, which is really important for you. And I say this because this is, and again, I'm really saying the research proposal because I'm also thinking about the British, maybe Moroccan system, because you don't have to have specifically PhD proposal to apply for a PhD in the United States. And I can talk about that if people are interested in applying, have specific questions. But we're making this really work for both sort of institutions and make it more international, because in the States, you would actually write your personal statement and you would give them samples of your writing if you're applying for a PhD at any institutions. So you work on your research proposal. I mean, we can talk about this, but it will take us a long time. So these are key strategies. That is not specifically how do you go about writing it, how do you go about writing one. This would be like a session on its own. Then one of the things that's really important here is once you have that sort of, and this is, I think, what Professor Kirat mentioned earlier, be always ready for surprises, because there may be a time you're stuck in the project and you feel you may do a switch or a change, maybe even the early step. I would always say to people, it's better to do it way early than wait till your third year. I'm like, I'm not gonna do this topic and straight over, which is really important just to think of that. And this is really get linked to sort of passion, which is, I think, really important. You really have to be super passionate. You have to be so passionate about the topic that maybe even people will be like so sick from hearing from you all the time, recounting the same thing, telling them about what you're working on, conversing with people about it. So you really have a passion that drives you, because that you have a problem. I would use this word, or a sort of hypothesis, or whatever you have that you want, that you don't have the answer to, because if you have the answer, you would not, of course, do this research at all. If you have it, why do it? Because you have the answer. But it's something you want to study because you are examining it to actually whatever kind of topic to examine it, to find whatever you would find. It would be solutions, or at least you would contribute to the knowledge or the scholarship in the field. Then again, not to repeat, like love, enjoy learning, which is important, like for the passion. But one thing I really want to probably stress here a lot, and I'll talk about it, is in the early stage, you want to be part of a lot of networks. And I'll explain that. Networks in terms of listservs, in terms there are a lot of networks specific for what you're studying. So there are times where you could probably just look for your area of study and you would find a lot of networks. There are a lot of listserv in Complet, in cultural studies, in applied linguistics, in anthropology, the social cultural, and you would probably be in that space where it has both like PhD student, researcher, faculty, and all that, and you actually could be able to ask questions. You'll see what people are reading. I'll come back to the reference question as well. Then sign up to journal mailing list. I'm not sure if a lot of people here know this, and maybe at a later stage I'll try to probably find a link and send it to the people. There are ways that you can sign up for mailing list where when a journal comes in what you are interested in, you'll get like the table of contents. You would know all the articles that are actually new out there for your topic, which is super important, because then you really know that, there's an article just came out. There's another article just came out. So it really, you have to build the system. And what I call that, you have to have what's called also reference citation machine. And if there are questions in the queue and I talk about it, I can talk about Zotero, I can talk about all of them, and what way you should have as you're building your work. Because as Professor Kirat mentioned earlier, she mentioned like review. Literature review is a huge part. You're technically entering the conversation with other people. What you're doing is conversing with other people. You're literally giving us the state of the field. And it's absolutely important, because anybody who's reading your work, they're gonna like, okay, the person's really knowledgeable about the conversation that has happened. And I'm using has happened, it's still like sort of happening, which is really important. Maybe like we'll go to the next slide. And I wanna briefly go over this because I know people might have a lot of questions. And of course you have to read on your topic, and that's the whole point. You're writing, remember, you're a person who has actually in this conversation to contribute to this conversation. So your task is to read as much as you can on the topic. But again, we're coming back to the question, how do you read? How do you select things? Do you just read? Because again, when we come to the question of reading, you're saying, okay, I'm researching this specific topic, but there are a lot of things that sometimes it's unable for a human being to be able to do all that. So we have to have strategies about actually, skimming and what matters, what does not matter. If I'm looking at an article of like 30, 40 pages, do I just read it and then decide? Or what are some of the strategies to figure out this is really important for me? And I can talk about that in Q&A. Of course, like I think the most important thing when it comes to writing, you do have definitely to write, and I'll talk about that in a minute, actually. Professor Kirat, can we go to the next slide, if you don't mind? So the other thing is, and I think this is, and I was really fortunate being invited by Professor Kirat last summer. It was really, really amazing unparalleled events where there are a lot of scholars giving all different training and talks. And I also want to thank Hussein for this amazing initiative and for Global Bus Foundation for doing this work, because you would want a lot of training. You would want this conversation we're having now, because we're actually learning from each other, which is really important. And it comes back again, like tracking professional network. There is like work hard, do not get interrupted. And what's really important is steady work. I think this is the piece here. It's like sort of steady. You might be a person that works a lot in first and second year, but you take off all third year. That's not steady. It's gonna be like sort of problematic to come back to it. I always view it as it is something that once you are on a roll, you want to keep it, but it does not mean that you cannot take breaks. And I'll talk about that. Writing is really important. I don't know if there are programs in Moroccan universities where you have writing groups or bootcamp writing sessions. A lot of people do like bootcamp writing sessions, and I'll explain what it really means. And it's usually you have, in a lot of universities, you have a writing center, and you have a graduate writing center where it's most of the time, sort of governed or operated by postdoctoral, or even graduate student at their, let's say, 5th, 6th year talking about here. But they'll have a bootcamp session, meaning let's all get together. We're gonna have a Google Doc. Everybody's gonna say their strategy. I'm gonna write first 2 pages for literature. Everybody's gonna say at the beginning what you're doing. And you will be in a writing session where everybody writes. And it's a lot of times done online as well. Even this is pre-COVID, like people would write for 2 to 3 hours. You'll come back and report. And they do this a lot throughout the journey as they are actually going through it. There's a lot of, because at that time you're so motivated by others. So, and one of the things I want to advise people is to join a writing group. So really, it's absolutely important to actually do that, because it's a part of the strategies. And sometimes if your institution does not offer that, I would look at other institutions. I mean, it's really, and also this in some institutions, I mean, not to be used name, but I'll give an example. Like for instance, like at Yale, there is a graduate writing center where even faculty and student come together. Everybody's working on their project. And what you're really doing is there is someone else who's writing there. So you feel that you have to write as well. So you have to try, at least I would say to a lot of people, have time for writing. Even if you say I'm gonna write for 2 hours or 3 per day, you have to have that time. So remember, I'm gonna put like a little advice here, like writing and the reading, right? Because you may be reading all the time, but not writing. But you want to go to the stage of writing as well. It's super important for you to actually do that. And one of the things I want to say, and I have conversation with a lot of people, writing is a messy process. Writing is not easy for anyone. I want to just say that it's a messy process, but it's a very good process, and you really get used to it. And you have to develop a way not to be frightened by writing. And the only way you do that is you become like so, it's like lack of better term, like become having this sort of friendship with writing, because it becomes something you do all the time. And I can give you examples. I mean, I don't want to go into like thinking about people have like novelists or stuff that they would have a chapter written like 12, 20 times or more. But I think you really have to say, okay, I'm gonna write, and you put a time schedule, and that's what comes out right there. You have to set a timetable and schedule. You can just haphazardly say, all right, this week I'm gonna read few chapters, and then suddenly the plan did not work, you've done nothing, and the week is done. You have to have a set timetable. You really have to. You could technically build your day to say, all right, I'm gonna write 3 hours from 10 to 1. And this is going to be my plan. I'm going to do it every day. And there are times when I'm going to just come and do free writing. I may be writing. I may feel, well, how can I really write? And I've not read a lot, just to write your ideas there and go back to it. I really do. It is something that all of us do. As again, it's not really easy, but you have to force yourself to do it. So you have to have a time schedule, and that time schedule can have some fun, meaning that you can take breaks. Some of us, unfortunately, we're like, you work a lot, that you become workaholic, which is not a good thing because you work all the time, but you have to get that sort of mental break when you can. Discuss your topic with other people, and all, I'm going to talk about probably the 3 together. One of the things you really want to do is to find this idea of like say your topic, serve the elevator pitch, right? You say your topic where you're in like, imagine you're riding the elevator with someone and somebody asks you what you're working on, and you become really professional in it. You're like, you tell them what you're working on. But I'm also saying this, you want to talk to other people about what you're researching. You want people to give you sort of their feedback, even pushback, even somebody say, you know what, this is great, but I'm not really convinced. Or like, it seems to be very illuminated, but I'm still, so you want people actually to sort of having what I would call like troubleshooting or even pushback to an argument, because they're trying to advance your thinking. And I think it's part of the process. You really have to have that. And that's what I mean, like academic gathering, present your ideas. Like you could come for 5 minutes. I know some places for their doctoral student, they do this. They even do a contest. I'm not sure if it's done in Morocco or not, where they get all their PhD students and they will accept the 3 best people that present in 5 minutes about the research. And it's something that they build that people will talk about. So there are strategies that can be done even institutionally or institution-wise, that they will develop people. So for instance, if you're a cohort of 10, and this is my advice to you, if you're a cohort that are doing the same PhD under the same sort of discipline, it'd be really nice for you to get together and organize things. Now technology give us that, right? Where all of us, like some of us like in Facebook or Zoom, you could be in Zoom and say, we're gonna do 2 to 3 hour writing, and let's get together and write. And there are other people with you there, like virtually writing as well. You know, they are writing, you're forced to write. Eat healthy and exercise. It's really important to move. I think it's even now more than before, because where all of us are stuck to our sort of computer workstations. And I think exercise is really super important. That break is important. I'll give you one thing. If you write something and you take a day or two and come back to it, you come back to it really fresh. You add a lot of things to it. You revise it and you go a lot through it. I think I talked about building up this support, take short breaks, keep up with other interests, which is really important. Meaning here, like if you're a person that play piano, you play guitar, you play chess, you do something that you do. It's really important that you don't lose track of that. That's something where you technically come and take a break. We can come back probably to this question of supervisor if people have questions, and I can make sure you write whatever questions you have, because I think by the end of this we'll come up to the questions, so we can probably have this conversation. I think it's more about hearing the questions that you have. Literature review takes a lot. We'll talk about that. Just to say, Professor Kirat and I had a great conversation, and like even when she invited me last year, I learned from a lot of people that she gave almost like a 4-hour lecture about literature review. So probably it's something still there for people to look at and use all the sort of resources that you have. Break your thesis down into SMART, which is sustainable, measurable, attainable, realistic, and timely goals. This is really important to look at that. You have really to have this sort of breakdown for it, because what you're doing is like, okay, here's what I'm working on. So people sometimes they'll say, okay, I'm gonna spend as much time looking at my theoretical framework or review or doing things. So break it so it's more manageable, which is really important, because you're thinking of a big project. It's not a small project, it's a big project, but a project that could be only manageable if you put a time schedule that you can use. And by the way, there are a lot of resources out there that can help you in your writing and or organize the outlines as well. Back up your work. This is super important. I put that here as a case to strategies, because you really want to back up your work. You want to use OneDrive. You want to use like external hard drive, because I've seen instances where people lost their work.
Everything. Yeah.
I was really, I cannot even tell you. And they had to redo a lot of things, where some of them were like going like literally like mentally crazy because of the work. So back up your stuff, back up your stuff, back up your stuff. And we put it there because it's important. It's a case of strategy, because you do a lot of work, but if you lose it, you have nothing. And you can't just like say, I'm gonna relate to my mental thing, because you have a lot of notes that you're doing. I can talk also about how to go about note taking. And this is one here also, do not compare yourself with others. There are two things that, and which is really problematic. A lot of people say, well, I'm not as good as this person. This person is fast as but you don't do that. It's your own project. if lack of better term, it's your own baby. It's something that you're like, that you're working on, and you really have to not to think of that or have what we call like imposter syndrome, that you think, and you probably know what imposter syndrome, meaning that you don't think you're as good as others, or maybe you're not as brilliant as others. You don't want that. You want to keep working on your project, because we all of us mature as we work, as we read, as we write. Intellectual humility is important as well, which means that you're always there to learn. You don't know it all, you're learning, and you have to have intellectual humility, because they'll push you further, meaning that I don't know it all, I'm just learning. I mean, often you have people like, I'm going to work on this topic and I know the response to it. No, you don't know, because if you know response to the topic, to the questions that you ask, then you shouldn't do a PhD. You shouldn't actually, you're examining the topic. You're actually just like sort of starting that. And you have, so we really want to talk about intellectual humility, which is really important, something that we often forget, that we are here like to seek knowledge. The more you read, the more you find, you just like find at the end, you really know little. It always happens to all of us. And there's so much, a lot out there to read and deal with. I guess if there are probably questions, I mean, I can also like, because I really want to make sure that we have, little, I mean, this is a beautiful one. You can go ahead and talk about this, I guess.
Yeah, just for fun again, because I know that you sometimes doctoral students don't have opportunities to laugh a lot. So I found this these two pictures just on social media. And of course, this is what the person who published them saying before PhD and after PhD. And I put it for fun, because you will see that I don't really agree with the order of images or of the photos. Of course, I put it here for fun, and then of course I will just share with you, that is to give you a very positive note on testimonies I collected through the open questions, and we included in the survey. So you have people thinking that doctoral journey is very fulfilling, because as a whole the experience results in both personal and academic growth. So you have very, very interesting testimonies actually, which I found very positive, and people really understood that it is a journey, as I say it, and as I tell my students, it's a journey from into the night, from darkness into light, because you don't come out of this experience as the same person, but you come out of it a totally different person. So you have different really testimonies, rich, because I'm learning so much, insightful. All the experience gained so far is enriching, and an embodiment of the adage, knowledge is power. So you have really very positive testimonies that I liked so much, and I want to share with you. Okay, it is changing my whole life. So, and this is exactly how I look at it myself, how I consider it, because actually, if you do not feel that you have changed after you have completed your dissertation, it means that you have not really undertaken a real doctoral dissertation, and you have not done the job properly, because you should come out of the experience as a different person. Other testimonies, despite the pain, of course, nothing is gained for free. Despite all the pain and the hard times, it's worthy of sacrifice. And not only does it improve your mindset, but it also cultivated a sense of achievement and how to do things with love and passion. So you see that these are testimonies from the participants in the survey that I found really very, very interesting. A life-changing experiment, as it deeply teaches one to focus and manage one's life to achieve the goal of being awarded a PhD or a doctoral dissertation, which is no easy endeavor. And the last testimony, I'm no longer the person I was before registration in the doctorate. I am a better version of myself. And this is why I consider actually that the experience, when you get into the doctoral the program, you get this way as the opposite of the former picture, and that you come out of it really a better version of yourself, and you come out with a lot of skills, a lot of experience, and so many really you become a different person, totally different person. And this is, of course, it is a period, and it is a stage you have to go through. And if you do things properly, you will surely succeed in overcoming and jump into the other side of the mountain. Okay, so of course, thank you for your attention. And now the floor is yours for asking questions, and we would like to hear your questions. Hussein, there are already some interesting questions if you would like to read them. Thank you very much. And I would stop sharing maybe.
Yes, thank you, Professor. Yes, you can stop sharing. Thank you. All right, so first of all, on behalf of Global Bus Foundation, I would like to thank Professor Yamina EL Kirat ALLAME and Professor Jonas Albusi for their, insightful presentations. They were very interesting. And a lot of, people here on Facebook expressing their appreciation and thanking your presentations. For example, Mustafa Murshid said, yeah, thank you so much. Last year's training was really helpful. Thanks a lot, Professor Yamina EL Kirat. And many people are saying thank you, thank you. And there are two questions. First, one for, Professor Yamina EL Kirat, and the second one for Professor Jonas. So the first one is Murad Karumi said, is it possible to register in a doctoral program in English studies with a master's degree in Arabic?
Sorry, is it possible to master? No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. In order, that has become a requirement. That is, in order to go for a doctoral program in a English studies or in English, you have to really have a master's degree in English, and you also have to have a BA in English. Now, I would like really to refer to this because it's a serious problem some students get into. Because after you graduate and or after you get your doctorate, you will have faced challenges getting a job, especially if you are targeting a position at the university, because people look at your former programs or training, and normally in order to get into a department, you should have gone through the different cycles in the department, from the BA, master program, and then doctoral program. So please don't consider it if you should absolutely follow the paths you have selected initially and follow the master program you have applied for. Okay? Yeah? Is my answer clear?
Yes, thank you. The second question addressed to Dr. Jonas. Fatima said, I have a question for Jonas. I want to apply for a Fulbright Joint Supervision program. How can I find an American co-supervisor?
Okay. Can you hear me now? I was mute a minute. That was great. That was a great question. I can respond to that because in the process of you as a Fulbright like student who was actually thinking of having joint supervision for a year in the United States, you would have to find someone who's able to supervise your research. You have to have what we call like an institution affiliation, but an institutional affiliation and approval that usually go to Fulbright committee, that there is someone who's actually another institution that will supervise your work. So I know the student is asking me for practical advice, not just like, how do I go about finding someone? So a few things I would say, as I said earlier, you really would have to know, one, and this is like important that I have a lot of conversation with people. You have to find an American institution that does give affiliation and does invite, Fulbright students or Fulbright scholars, because there are some that don't. That's one. The second thing, which is really important, is you want to find the person that you need to approach. Of course, you would have to share with them your proposal, of course, your research proposal. They are willing to accept that, and they're willing to actually invite you to the institution and get affiliation. But I would also say that this is a conversation also to have with your supervisor, your PhD supervisor as well, because they could probably also help you as well. They might be aware or have network and knowing other faculty members in the United States that are actually working on the topic, that they'll be more than happy to either be like to be joint supervisor for that specific topic. I hope this really does answer. And maybe Professor Kirat can mention more, because she probably had her student coming from Morocco to the United States. I mean, I could talk about the research Fulbright, because you would have like sort of American scholars coming to Morocco, but not for the PhD, but actually doing their own research and all that. So
yeah, actually, yes, I can answer this question, because I have had, I think, 7 of my students did their dissertations with the co-supervision, and of course, in some cases, I was the one who put the student in touch with the colleague in an American university, or sometimes it was the student who started looking for people with the profile in the topic. That you can start, of course, looking for American professors working on the topic, and students can approach these people, and most of the time they answer. But in some other cases, the supervisor can provide, the Moroccan supervisor can also provide help, especially if he is the first one to write to say that I have a student who is working on this and we are looking for a co-supervision. Sometimes the MACC office here in Rabat actually helps with this as well. I know that they have contacts of American professors who, and their profiles, and these are former Fulbrighter, either who came to Morocco or who already supervised other dissertations, and they can put the student in touch with the American professors. So I think that this is something that normally goes smoothly, especially if the project is well written, if it is interesting, if it's a high quality thing, and if your supervisor, your Moroccan supervisor, also supports the initiative, because I have seen some concrete examples in the doctoral program I coordinate. We had cases where the supervisor, the Moroccan supervisors, did not accept the idea to have the dissertation co-supervised by an American professor. I had no problem with that, because it gives an opportunity for my students to go for a whole year to the US, especially if overcome the challenges we have spoken about, not finding references, having really an ideal environment for working. And you were speaking, Jonas, about a number of things that, for instance, writing center or something. We have nothing of all this. All what you mentioned initially about the facilities students have in the US, Moroccan students do not have any. That's who they really face. Most of the students do the work on their own, and they are not even aware of the benefits of setting themselves into groups. So for instance, after the webinars we had last summer, a number of our students established networks, and they stayed in touch, and they are connected now, which is very, very good because it's very supportive. And this is exactly an experience I went through myself, when I was working on my doctoral d'état, because, it's the odd system. We had we didn't used to have seminars with our supervisors in the Department of English, and there was a seminar in the Department of French, and I joined that seminar, which was actually held every Thursday morning. And I started, and this is how I really got motivated. And this is where I met a colleague of mine who is still a friend, who has become a friend now, Professor Benis Said. And we started motivating ourselves, really trying to help support each other. And this is very, very important actually to establish a network. And I really personally advise you to try to establish a network and get together, as Jonas mentioned, with respect to working together, getting support from each other, asking questions when you face challenges, ask the other students, and you will hear actually that you are not the only one facing the challenges, that it's a normal thing. Stress is normal. We went through the same stress. Didn't you go through stress, Jonas? I went through the same stress. I went through the same anxiety, but I think that what can help you overcome stress is time management. And as Jonas mentioned, if you set a schedule for yourself, a timetable, I should work at least 2-3 hours a day, and you do it. And believe me, that's what worked. And I even used to set deadlines for myself. I should be done with this chapter by the end, and I set the date, and I had to really do my best so as to abide by that. So I think that there is a lot you can do just by setting networks. Okay.
Wonderful. Yeah, very interesting. Okay, answers and points. Yeah, the third question is again addressed to Professor Yamina EL Kirat Al-Allam. Ayub Saqi said, what would be the best thing that a PhD student can do during his very first year? Yeah. What would be the best thing? Yeah.
Yeah, okay. For me, it's normally before I advise students before they get into the process of registration to do a lot of reading on the topic and to be already at ease with the topic. Of course, and I will be talking about what to do in the first year if the student has already come out with or submitted a research proposal that satisfies the requirements, that the student has done a lot of reading, knows exactly what he or she is doing, knows what the topic is exactly. So the first year, normally we do a lot of reading, and we try to, as much as possible, prepare the literature review. Because the literature review, as Jonas mentioned, it's like getting into the discussion. You get to a party, and there are people who are already there before you, and they are discussing things, and you cannot just from the very beginning jump into the thing. You have to listen to find out what they have been talking about. You have to find out about what people have written about the topic. You have to find out about the findings, about the methodology people have adopted, and so on and so forth, before you start and decide for your topic. So reading the literature is really very, very helpful the first year. This is the first thing to do. But reading, as Jonas mentioned, is not reading a novel. You are reading for the literature, you proceed, you have to have strategies in doing your literature review. And you have, of course, in the presentation I gave last that Jonas referred to, it was a very long one, but it is really very detailed. And if you follow it, really, you will face no problems with your literature review. That is, really do the literature review, taking things, ideas, and having summaries, critical summaries of each reference, and then trying to compare the different references and so on and so forth, because literature review is actually a synthesis of all what was done about the topic you are researching. And you should try as much as possible to understand what these people have done and what is left for you to do. Actually, you do the literature review in order to find the gap and to position yourself as well. So when you do the literature, you know how much was done, what were the results, and then what is left for you to undertake, and position yourself later on as a researcher who is contributing to the topic you are researching. So I think I really encourage you to do a lot of reading. Of course, establish the list of your references. Don't get lost into, again, reading whatever. I have given some tips there in the presentation on literature review about how to select your literature review, how to decide that this is a good reference to read for my research and this is not. Of course, you can start by reading the abstract and then you read the general introduction or the general conclusion, and this is how you decide that the reference is relevant or not relevant. But of course, we can consider actually giving, would you agree, Jonas, that we give maybe other presentations in relation to specific topic if Global Bus Foundation is, of course, willing to, of course, we offer our service if they want to take it. Okay.
Yes, okay. Our pleasure, yes.
Yeah. I hope I have answered your question. Jonas, do you have something to add?
I think you've summarized, you've really summarized. I mean, my thing, I would just say with lit review, it's not the summary. It's as you said, you synthesize.
Critical.
Which is really important, which is very critical. But you're right. I mean, at first it would be you're actually reading a lot on your topic, but also knowing how to read about your topic is important as well, just to stress that.
Wonderful. Yes, by the way, there are a lot of questions, but I mean, the last question here was raised by Hasna Busta. How can one best disseminate their focus between engaging in their thesis and generating articles that could potentially be published? And which of the two should be prioritized during the initial steps of a doctoral journey? I repeat it. How can one best disseminate their focus between engaging in their thesis and generating articles that could be potentially be published? And which of the two should be prioritized during the initial steps of a doctoral journey? The question for both of you.
Yeah. Okay, sure. Yes, of course. And I will maybe answer first in relation to the Moroccan context, because I think that, that there are requirements for our students to publish 2 articles before they are their defense. And I think that actually one should try to set a balance between the two, actually. And I have seen different cases, students focusing on publication, forgetting about the dissertation, or students actually focusing on the dissertation and not thinking at all of the articles to be published until they reach the defense stage. So this is really a problem. Here again, there should be, the students should set a balance between the dissertation and publishing the article. And actually they go together, because while you are doing your research, actually you can take one aspect and of course, especially after you have collected your data, and I'm speaking about research that involves data collection and fieldwork. Normally you have research questions, and after you have done, of course, normally we require that students by the end of their 2nd year publish their first article. And then by the end of their 3rd year, they should publish their 2nd article. This is exactly how we put it to our students. And I'm lucky because I have most of the students I supervise personally are very dynamic with respect to this, and they manage to publish. So I think that if you take only one aspect of your thesis, the publication should be related to your thesis. If you take one aspect, especially at the first stages of your data collection, okay, you can already get an article out of this. That is, you are not going to give everything in the article, but you can give a very kind of one research question can be part of an article to be published. And this is how you overcome. It encourages you actually to complete your dissertation as well. I remember Myself, I can tell about my experience. I wrote my first article out of my thesis. And then this article that was 13 pages was turned into a whole chapter for my dissertation. So you see how you can work in a very smart way on both. So you work out, you take only one research question and you bring out of it, you do, of course, you take the data you have collected and you analyze it and you produce an article. It should not be more than 10, 13 pages most of the time. And then later on, you will work on this article to make of it a whole chapter of your dissertation. So that's, I think this is actually, these are two things that go together and students should really try their best to strike a balance between the two. That is, do the dissertation, but at the same time, the article. The article should not be from another topic, okay? And it should, or it can be related to the thesis dissertation, to the thesis topic, but it can be limited because some students publish articles that have nothing to do with their dissertation. And this is, of course, nonsense because the articles you publish should be related to your research topic. Yeah, Jonas, do you have something to add?
I mean, you've summarized it, and I see some people asking about journals. Maybe I could talk about that.
Yeah. Okay.
But let me just say one thing, really. When you have, when thinking about this process, right? So you've done a lot of reading. You come up with a research question. Certain hypotheses, depends on the field that you are in. And you're actually reading, you're building all of this because you're doing a lot of research. You're actually, like, as we said, you're reading widely, but you're at the beginning, but you're also reading specifically with, plan, and like, what you're actually reading, because again, you're not reading every single journal article that has been published about a certain discipline, but you do have a focus. And in your questions, as we can talk about that, most of your questions do have the keywords. And if you think about, sometimes even in social sciences, you do an anthropology, you have what you're doing, you have the place where the field work is going to happen. So you do have keywords. When it comes back to sort of thinking about your dissertation and your publishing as well, I don't see them exactly what Yamina mentioned earlier as like separate enterprises. They're not separate enterprises. In fact, they converse with each other. So I'll give you just an example in terms of coming to publications. Maybe if you're thinking about it in terms of social sciences and you're like thinking about, you've done your field work, but you've looked at issues with methodologies. This is like a good thing a lot of people do. And you're saying, okay, you know what? I can give examples actually, but you can say, okay, I've seen like sort of the methods that are being used, but I really find that I could advance this idea. And don't think of yourself that you cannot. And you can actually publish in some journals, like a sort of a brief. It doesn't have to be 8 to 12,000 words, like, or 7 to 12,000 words, but it could be something that you're actually conversing with other ideas, or you're advancing something that you're thinking about. And remember, when I say advancing, you're saying, this is an idea that I'm putting out there. Of course, you're gonna have a lot of people who are gonna respond back to your idea, whether they think it's feasible or not. So it's always, you're actually writing, but you're thinking, or there's a sort of a question that you have and say, okay, I might write a piece about it somewhere else. And so I don't want you to view it as an enterprise, but it's something you could do along the way. And of course, substantial publication is going to be after, of course, you defend your PhD, because now you've been working on this topic and you're taking chapters, you're taking stuff that of course, there is a huge difference between like sort of a PhD chapter and an article. I mean, that's another conversation we can have, because they're not the same. No. Most of the, sometimes like the PhD chapter are very theoretical heavy. And the way it goes, of course, there's an argument that's built in. And of course, you're signposting your argument as you would do an article, but they are totally two different species between a dissertation chapter and an article as well. And I promise you'll see this. If you go and you say, okay, I'm gonna take a chapter from my dissertation to a great like journal, right, peer-reviewed journal, and publish it, the first thing a lot of people will tell you, and they will spot is, this is actually a chapter from a dissertation. And you have to work on it to make it to be an article. So just to say that, but But those are like really great things. And if you come to the journal, I'm not sure if you want me to say something, but people are asking about fees and journals. And I've heard a lot about this, but I don't know, because there are a lot of journals that don't charge you a fee at all. I mean, most of the journal I could tell you, and there's sometimes like Q1 and their higher journals that there's a lot of competition there, but they don't charge student anything to publish. Mm-hmm. So I don't know, I'm always very cautious, and I really say this genuinely. I'm very cautious about you, like, you know, publishing in places where they're asking you for $300 or $400 to publish your piece. There are a lot of journals that they will not ask you for anything at all. So be really careful. I would say really be careful. You know, I can talk more about peer-reviewed journals. Maybe we can have a session about that. How do you go about it? What's the peer review process? What you should publish? Because I think there are a lot of, I think, and I hate to say this, but I think there are a lot of journals that are just built themselves, and they start, you give them whatever you have, it doesn't go through a peer review process, they publish it, but they actually gain $500 from you. So I want to say to people, be really super careful when it comes to that, and I'll be more than happy to talk about that if you need.
If you allow me, I just want to refer to participation in conferences as well, because that's the best place for you actually to discuss the work you are doing. You can present before you publish the article. You can make of it a presentation at a conference, a national, international, and I would advise you really just to target international conferences, because you have a larger audience and you will benefit from the discussion and questions people will ask you during the conference. And this is how you will improve, actually work again on this presentation and make of it an article later that you can publish. Okay, so I think that this is really something related, and of course it will keep you progressing even for your dissertation, attending conferences. You will meet people maybe working on the same topic, and this is how you can set a network, you can establish relations, and you can get really very, very interesting feedback, especially from someone who is from the same field or in the same working on the same topic. There is just a question there, Sheikh Hussein, about whether it's possible for students working in the field of human resources management to have a co-supervisor. Co-supervision actually is open to all students, okay, in all the fields. In the past, they used to focus on mainly department. It was mainly focused on the Department of English or the students from the departments of English, but now it's open to whoever has a high proficiency in English. You have to take the TOEFL, have high scores, and show that you can go, because when you go within the framework of co-supervision, you have to attend courses and take courses at the university you're appointed to. So you should make sure you have a good proficiency in English, and you should prepare the TOEFL before you apply for the co-supervision. But it is open. I know even students who were from the architecture who got actually co-supervision. Students in engineering got supervision. And now we even encourage more people from science, because in Morocco in the past, Fulbright co-supervision and Fulbright grants were mainly focusing on students from the Faculty of Letters and especially departments of English. Okay?
Yeah, wonderful talk, and I'm sure that, yeah, that our international audience, I mean, and people following us on YouTube, on Facebook, have enjoyed your valuable piece of advice, guidance, and of course, this is just the first part, and there is the second part and the third part about the doctoral program. And if you are interested, join us, I mean, not next week, but the following one and the other week. The last point here, Professor Yamina EL Kirat ALLAME and Professor Jonas, I would like just to give one word to our PhD students who are, going through the journey. That is a mixture of challenge and opportunities. One word, one piece of advice, each one of you. Thank you.
I'll give
Jonas,
the
you
floor
go
to you
first.
first. I'll give you the floor. You go ahead.
Okay.
Oh.
Okay.
Ladies
I
first.
think that, yeah, okay, no problem. So I think that the thing I would like to insist on is, of course, and this will go mostly for those who are still not registered in a doctoral program, you should really love research to embark on a research. If you are not really that much passionate about research, you will surely not enjoy, because I didn't want to report to you some of the negative testimonies I have noted in the survey. There are people who are really suffering because actually they are not passionate about research. They don't love research. They are thinking just of the degree. As I always tell my students, are you interested in research or are you interested in the diploma you are going to get? So there is a clear difference. Because I have seen, and I am lucky because I have really supervised students who are passionate about their topic, who love the research, and who, as I say, research is a virus. You get it. And when you get it, you can never get rid of it, because you should enjoy it. And I hope that's what you should do. Try to, since you are there, you are undertaking a research, try to really enjoy it and consider it as a kind of enriching experience for you. And as I showed you in the image, you should surely come out of it as a different person. And it is an experience that you will learn a lot from it. And don't look at it as a kind of, let's say, a burden, because if you look at it this way, you will really suffer. But if you look at it positively and you think that it is a great experience I am undertaking, this is a great opportunity so many people cannot get, and I have, so this is how you will make your experience an enjoyable experience. And I hope I will convince you of adopting a positive attitude. Please be positive. And you see, you get only what you have inside. If you are positive, everything will go smoothly. But if you look at things in a negative way and you consider it to be a burden, then you will really suffer. Okay? That was my word.
Thanks. Yeah.
Jonas?
Wonderful.
So I think about it this way. So I call them like the 3 Ps. So pace, passion, and patience. And I'll just say something about them very quick, because really you have to set a pace, which is like sort of endurance. It is something that will definitely take time, but you have a pace, and you have to have a steady pace. And you think about it, because you have to have a steady pace, that you might face obstacles and challenges, but you are very resolute, which is really important. Coming back to the passion, being passionate about your topic is absolutely important. It's going to drive you. It's really what drives you. And just think about it. Think about something that you're very passionate about it. You really do it really well, and you care so much about it. And it might not be easy, but that passion drives you. It becomes the sort of the engine that drives what you do, which is important. And I come back to the third piece, which is patience. You have to be patient. I mean, just think about it. There are a lot of times when you do things, I'm thinking of it mechanically, and you don't have those results, like building up something and it doesn't work, but you don't really give up and you try and you try and try. It's a part of it. There's no, my point is like, don't even serve, like when it comes to research and writing, I don't think that anybody is going to come and say to you, it's the easiest thing. It's enriching, but it's a lot of work you do. There are a lot of times we have a writer's block and you're thinking about ideas and like, I can't even give yourself, I would say all the time, like be patient. And one last thing, if I want to probably leave you with, that I think it's so important, build a network. It is really important. What often people do, they have this journey being isolated, and isolation is not good. Because like, for instance, when you thought earlier about going to a conference, what you do in conference, you workshop your piece. You literally, the reason behind conferencing is the fact that you come, you give a talk, there are people listening to you, and they are having so many suggestions. They may be even push back. They may not even convince you with your argument. But what they're actually doing, they are bolstering your argument. They're making it very strong because they're actually telling you, have you considered? They're playing. I love people sometimes that play the devil's advocate, right? They're just pushing back because that makes you really think about it. So I would say have a network and build a cohort. If you are together in whatever discipline, be it biology, computer science, anthropology, cultural studies, comparative literature, and on, have that sort of network where you're helping each other. You're literally saying, okay, let's get together. I just like, I mean, pre-COVID-19, let's have a cup of coffee and let me tell you what I think about it. And then you talk back to me and you tell me what you think about my argument and what you think. I think this is really what make knowledge really sort of like, rich or even richer or enrich an experience, because other people actually listen to you and say, brilliant, illuminating, but have you considered this? Have you read this? So I think this is really what drives all of us. And I wish all of you guys good luck. It's really also it's a learning experience for us as well, because we do this work as well. Even past, and just remember the PhD is a start as well. Even when you do the, because you're going to be, if you're in academia, you're going to be doing a lot of research. You're always going to, so this sort of peace, patience, passion and patience really would stay with you throughout the whole process. And I want to thank the Global Bus Foundation for this excellent webinar and excellent forum, and for the entire work that they do for the students here. So thank you so much, honestly, like for this amazing platform you're creating for the student and for all of us, because we're students as well. We're always students of knowledge. We learn as we go. So thank you so much for this.
Yeah. Yes, thank you to Global Bus Foundation and to Professor Hussein for this opportunity. It was great, and it's always a pleasure. You see, I told you at the very beginning, I was feeling really worn out. I have plenty of energy now. I feel better. So I think that
you love what you do. That's why.
Yeah, exactly. My passion made it that at the very beginning, I was wondering whether I could really make it and speak that much. So I think, so you see, when you are passionate about something, you just enjoy it and you don't think of anything else. Yeah. Thank you so much. It was a really a great event. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. It means a lot for us, Professor Yamina EL Kirat and Professor Jonas, to accept our invitation and to share your expertise in topics related to, doctoral programs. And I'm sure again that our audience, have learned a lot from your great, experiences. So I'm Hussein Kathiras, tonight's webinar's moderator. I would like to remind you that every Friday at 9 p.m. Moroccan local time, we invite special guest speakers who are going to share with you topics related to English language teaching, to marketing, to business, to project management. And don't forget, next week we will have other special guest speakers. Thank you, Professor Yamina EL Kirat ALLAME and Professor Jonas.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having us.
Thank you. Thank you. It was a pleasure.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.